Fellow Kenyans, this is part one of the video titled From Haiti to Ebola, Public Participation is Not a Favor. My fellow Kenyans, today I want us to reflect on two issues that may appear separate, but I believe they are connected by the same constitutional question. The first is Kenya's decision to send police officers to Haiti, which, as you know, already happened. And the second is the reported Kenya-US United States arrangement involving an Ebola quarantine or isolation facility in Kenya. One issue concerns security abroad. The other one concerns public health at home. But underneath both is the same question. When major decisions are made in the name of Kenya, where are the people? Where is the information? Where is parliament? Where is public participation? Where is accountability? And where is the constitution? I do not want to begin with accusations. I want to begin with questions. Because sometimes the best way to defend the constitution is not to shout, but to ask the right questions. The Constitution of Kenya begins with a very powerful idea. It's Article 1, which says that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. Let that sink. All sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. That means that the people are the source of power. The president, the parliament, the judiciary, the public officers, none of them owns the power. They simply exercise the delegated power delegated to them by the citizens. The people vote leaders into office, but they do not surrender their sovereignty. Why? Because an election is not the death of the citizen. An election is the delegation of authority. So when citizens ask questions, they demand information, petition parliament, go to court, demonstrate peacefully, or challenge public decisions. They are not disturbing government. They are supervising delegated power. The people do not disappear after elections. They remain the supervisors of power. Article 2 tells us the Constitution is supreme and binds all persons and all state organs. Let that sink. Article 2 tells us that the Constitution is supreme and binds all persons and all state organs. This means the executive is bound by the Constitution, and so is the parliament, and so is the judiciary. County governments are bound by the same Constitution. So this is the sense in which when foreign agreements, public health agreements, security missions, court orders, and parliamentary processes are being put into place, they must all operate within the Constitution. So the constitutional question is not simply, did the government make a decision? No. The question is, was that decision made constitutionally? Was the public informed? Was parliament involved? Were the relevant documents disclosed? Were citizens given time and information to participate meaningfully? Were the risks, the costs, the obligations, and the benefits explained? Those are important questions to be asking. Article 3 says, every person has an obligation to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. Let that sink. Article 3 of the 2010 Constitution says that every person has an obligation to respect, to uphold, and defend the Constitution. Now, this is a very important emphasis. It means that defending the Constitution is not only the work of lawyers, judges, senators, MPs, activists, or civil society organizations, because every citizen has a role and should play that role. Every citizen has a duty. Every citizen can ask questions. Every citizen can demand information. Every citizen can insist that public power must remain accountable. So let us ask, what does it mean when citizens see possible constitutional violations but do nothing? Does silence not begin to look like permission? Of course, citizens' silence does not make unconstitutional conduct lawful. The Constitution remains supreme whether people speak or not. But in practical political life, silence can allow misuse of power to continue. If no one asks for information, those withholding information may continue withholding it and believing that it is okay. If no one questions public participation without documents, public participation may become theater. If no one challenges misuse of delegated power, those entrusted with power may begin to behave as if they own it. So citizens' silence does not make unconstitutional conduct lawful, but it can allow it to continue in that unlawful manner. Now, Article 10 gives us the national values and principles of governance. Think of these national values like the culture that we have been promising or have been promised by leaders that when I get into power, I'll do this and that, I'll change Kenya. Those are national values we are talking about. These include the rule of law, democracy, participation of the people, human dignity, good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability. These are not decorations. They are not ceremonial words. They bind state organs whenever they apply or interpret the Constitution, make public policy, or implement public decisions. So when government enters a major public health arrangement or agrees to send Kenyan police officers abroad, the question is simple. Where is the transparency? Where is the accountability? Where is public participation? Where is the information? Where is the opportunity for citizens to understand, to question, to support, to oppose, or propose alternatives? Public participation is not attendance. It is not simply a matter of clapping. It is not being called to approve what has already been decided. Public participation requires information, time, explanation, and the real possibility that citizens' views can affect the outcome. That brings us to Article 35. Article 35 gives every citizen the right to access information held by the state. Let that sink. Article 35 gives every citizen the right of access to information held by the state. So this is where public participation becomes practical. We can ask questions like, how can citizens participate without information? If a road has been made and people want to know how much it costs, should that be a good thing? How can citizens give an informal opinion on a foreign security mission if they do not know the legal basis, the costs, the risks, the command, the structure, and the obligations? How can citizens give an informed opinion on an Ebola-related facility if they have not seen the agreement, they have not seen the safeguards, the health protocols, the data sharing arrangements, the liability provisions, and the financial implications? Public participation without information remains theater. And when Kenyans are worrying right now about Ebola and the potential outbreak, that's precisely because of the failure to share information. It may look democratic from the outside, but constitutionally it is empty when it is simply theater. So whether we are talking about Haiti, whether we're talking about Ebola, public health, security, or foreign cooperation, the first principle is the same. The people must be informed, the people must be involved, and the people must be respected. Because sovereign power belongs to the people. The people do not disappear after elections. They remain the supervisors of power, and we must remember this all the time. That is, the people don't disappear after elections. They remain supervisors of power. Thank you. This is part 1. In part 2, I will look more directly at the role of the executive, the parliament, the judiciary, and the citizens. If you liked this, I hope you can share with your friends. Thank you, my fellow Kenyans.